But it was, I think they reissue the book every few years, so I imagine it's quite a thicker book now than it used to be. And he one by one went through all these different examples as to why we're not actually free.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah, and or at least not as free as we thought.
Yeah.
And that was the beginning of, and building on the 1984 thing, I began to look at those two things in the same vein, I suppose. And then of course I'd got my driving license when I was 17, like a lot of other people.
Yeah.
And I would find it's strange because when I was driving, this was the days before mobile phones, of course.
Yeah.
And if you were between one place and another, nobody knew where you were.
Exactly. Yeah.
And it was, in a very real sense, I felt free.
Yes.
In that. And
although we didn't really have anything to compare it with, did we? Because it was just life.
Exactly.
Yeah.
It was the natural state.
Yeah.
This is what. Of course, nobody knows where I am. Within those two locations, and then I started to hear about automatic number plate recognition, which is, and I don't know if most people know about this, but this is the network of cameras that the police started to put up in 2002. Firstly on motorways and then other main roads, and now they're almost everywhere.
Yes.
And quite a lot went up during the pandemic, which is...
Okay, so he's going to talk about cameras. I'm going to mention that one of the things that's being left out about cameras is the fact that there is no ownership. We don't have any ownership as 7.8 billion zombie slaves. We don't have ownership of anything. The corporations own everything that we have in our homes, everything that we have. The conglomerates, they own it all. So everything from your car to the internet service that's coming into your house, the items that you purchase, your lawnmowers, whatever, everything that you own, your televisions, everything is owned by these companies, conglomerates, manufacturers, okay? So when you buy your car, Ford Motor Company, Toyota Motor Company, these places are the ones that really hold the ownership of your car. You only get a copy of your title to make you have an illusion of owning something, because we know how good that makes the slaves feel, because they feel like they're a higher up slave. They're up the ladder. They're not a low down slave. They're higher up. So therefore we do these things for them. So that they enslave further down is what it does. It turns slaves into slave owners of other slaves. But, you go all the way to the top. There's still, just like I'm saying about Richard and his buddies and Jordan Peterson and all these guys and Candace Owens and whoever. So yeah, they're programmers, but they're still zombie slaves. They're not going to get into the bunkers. They're not going to, in other words, they're not going to get any special privileges that the 10,000 at the top are going to get, or anything like that, and their families, as all this goes down. In other words, they're still eating the poison food, they're still drinking the poison water, they're still taking the poison pill, metaphorically speaking, and not even metaphorically speaking, because look what the medical industry does. So yeah, taking the poison pills. So what he's about to talk about now, what these guys are saying, hold on a minute, let's make sure.
Unsurprising, and I did notice them. And so every time I go into my local town...
what I was going to say is the home cameras. The home cameras have been around for a long time as well, even before 2002. So whoever the manufacturer is owns the rights to those cameras. Anything coming over the internet is owned by the internet itself. So Microsoft at that time, back in 2002, would have been Microsoft, I guess, would have owned the computers if it was a Mac computer, but they all have to sell out to the main system, what they want to call the AI of things, and they all have to sell that information to them. So therefore, they may not be telling you that they're using the technology, but then again, they kind of do. So they tell you because everybody knows that their phone's being watched, for example, right? They all know they're being tracked, their every move. But it doesn't offend them because they're only being shown this in a way of suggested shopping tips, or you go online looking for something, and then all of a sudden, whatever internet channel you're using or whatever internet device you're using, all of a sudden starts sending you all these other things. Within the next week or so, you'll start seeing them. Airport tickets on sale or whatever. Oh, wait a minute. How did the internet know? How did the AI know that I was looking for tickets? I mean, we all know this, right? We all know this shit's been going on. So it's the same thing with all these cameras. These guys are going to talk about the cameras, but they're only talking about the cameras that are on the turnpikes, the highways, the light poles, and all that shit. But the cameras are fucking everywhere, because every store, every business, every home has camera systems, because we're all in such fear for ourselves that we all want to see our delivery packages come, and we all want to feel like we're famous, and we want to put our faces, hi YouTube. Fucking ridiculous nonsense, man.
Somebody I don't know and have not given permission to know, knows where I've been. And I find that to be sort of unacceptable. But of course that was during the pandemic. But I started to the expanding of the surveillance state got me more and more vexed as time went on, and I felt I had to say something. So that's when I first did my first YouTube channel.
And how did it go down when you started to talk about this kind of thing?
Well, initially it was,
It's not worse and worse. Listen, everyone, it's not worse and worse. As these guys are scaring you, it's the same thing that our parents and grandparents were going through back in their day, okay, with the telephone, with the invention of the telephone, right? All of a sudden, telephones came out. Everybody loved them. Everybody wanted them. Little did they know, and it took them 30 years to find out. Bullshit, it did. The zombie slaves love this kind of shit. They'll do anything that their masters tell them to do. So, what did they do? 7.8 billion of them all got fucking telephones. This is before cell phones, wired phones. We're going to run the wires pole to pole, just like we're doing with the electricity and everything else today, and all the ridiculousness of things that we do. Terrible for us. High voltage wires running by our heads, causing cancer, all the stupid shit we did. But let's go back to the telephones. So the telephones, totally set up to listen in on Big Brother. There's the word I'm looking for. So totally ready for Big Brother. But how many years did we have the telephone before people started using the term Big Brother? And who was the term Big Brother put out there by? Big Brother. Big Brother put out the terminology, made the movies, made the television shows, wrote the books, and then they put it out there, and everybody says, "Oh, see, Big Brother's listening to your phone calls, even when you're on a payphone. They know everything." And then, mama, fucking lying motherfuckers, man. Of course everyone knew. We all knew. And then if you talk to your parents about it, when you start learning about it, and they're like, "Oh yeah, well, of course. I mean, they could listen in on any conversation they wanted. Why would they want to? Do you think they want to listen to your mother talk for 3.5 hours to the neighbors about how to get underwear clean?" Right? So you're dreaming, Michael. No one's listening to the phone calls. Where would they put all the data? That's another thing. Where would they put all the information? What, did they run in the recorder? Because they didn't need to run the fucking tape recorder. Because the technology we're using today and the computer chip has always been there. This technology we're using today, these computer chips are garbage. They're shit compared to the true creator's work. They really are. So for us to be communicating with each other, we long before, 10,000 years ago or so, for sure we had it at least then. We might have had it 3,000 years ago. I don't know. I'd have to dig in further, and maybe someday I'll learn that information. But 10,000 years ago, I know we had it. How do I know? Because we still use it today accidentally. We use the true creator's energy in order to communicate with each other. We use the true creator's energy in order to travel, to move around in. We just don't think of it that way. We think of it as a subconscious realm, and we're sleeping, or we make up all different kinds of excuses, or you're hallucinating, or you're delusional, or you're tripping on acid, or some kind of other shit, or drugs, or something like that to relate it to. Nah, man, just fucking coming around to reality, that's all. So you had all that shit happening, right? But even go before the phone, before the telephone. Who did you have doing what these guys are talking about? Who was doing it? Come on, I'll give everybody 3 seconds. 1, 2, 3. That's right, the post office. That's right, the post office. Because the post office was the fucking big brother spying on little fucking zombie slaves way before the phone even came along. That was fucking 30, 40 years even before that. So now that we have the internet, of course it's going to be this. That's why you've got one agent, one human agent, running hundreds, if not thousands, of robot fucking scams, right? Each agent has that responsibility.
30, 40 views, nothing at all really. And then Jordan Peterson came on the scene, and I was kind of inspired by him, and I made a video which was a big hitter about, because it had Jordan Peterson in the title, and so that.
No, wrong, no, false. I've had Jordan Peterson in the title of over 200 videos that I made a series to him. He's not waking up. He's not coming forward and say, holy fuck, man, I can't believe it. We were lied to. Everything's been a lie. No more zeros, no more infinity. Get him out of here. Nope, he's not doing that. He's not coming forward and saying, oh my God, I taught thousands of children and kids, and adults included, that evolution is a thing. The dinosaurs existed at one time. That unicorns and fucking fairies were fucking running the show. I mean, this is fucking stupid, man. Jordan Peterson.
Sort of went viral, and I had several 100,000 views on that. And then, of course, my subscriber numbers went up to sort of 10,000 or so, and then they built up to 15,000. And well, they haven't gone up any since, but that's, I got lots of decent feedback and found lots of people that I realised did agree with me. And of course, it only got turbocharged by the pandemic.
Gee, I wonder how you got thousands of people agreeing with you, because they're all programmed to agree with you. Thousands are going to be programmed to agree exactly with you. Thousands of others with Jordan Peterson. Thousands of other with Richard, who I now call Tricky Dicky. So yeah. Fucking Richard.
Yeah. It's interesting what you were saying about these cameras that can recognise your number plate. Yet you still hear the stories of the police finding, not through these number plates, people who are uninsured or not MOT'd, and you think, isn't that what they were originally for? To try and stop people driving illegally on the roads, or in dangerous cars, or not being insured, so that if you have an accident. And yet they don't seem to be, policing that aspect of it. It's more the surveillance of where are you going and what have you been doing.
Yeah, you're sort of suggesting that they might have been used for, crime detection.
Yeah.
But it seems that's not the case.
That's not the case.
No, it seems that it's the main purpose is just for surveillance for its own sake.
Yeah.
It seems to be, to me.
And of course the argument is always that it's surveillance is there to help us and prevent criminal activities going on. So if your child is kidnapped, they'll be able to track the car down very quickly. Or if your car is stolen, I suppose, although the police don't really seem to be bothered if your car is stolen these days. But all of that, sorry, my foot slipped. All of that seems to be irrelevant, really. It's more about where you are at any one time, which is, that goes back to that 1984 thing.
Yeah, and it's always the promise of surveillance is that it's there for our safety and to catch murderers and rapists and all the rest of it. But I mean, if you look at all the horrors that have been going on in Rotherham and Telford and Rochdale and all those places, I mean, the surveillance state was, in place then.
Yes.
And for decades they did nothing about it.
And they must have got the footage, or must have been observing the footage of those poor girls being taken and placed into cars and driven to places in which they could follow. And yet those horrific crimes were just swept under the carpet.
Exactly, yeah. But you go 5 miles out over the speed limit or drive in a bus lane, and they're on you immediately.
Yes.
Yeah, immediately. And it is extremely efficient in that way.
Yes.
In that way, but it's not efficient at all in regards to dealing with serious crime. So I think that kind of tells us what it's there for. And it does give the lie to the idea that surveillance is in some way good for us.
Yes, it's more of a cash cow, isn't it? All the way, or controlling you to ensure that you adhere to certain speed limits. Not suggesting that people wouldn't adhere to certain speed limits, but it's that element of control on the motorway where, again, and I talk about this so much, our natural ability to be responsible for ourselves is somewhat taken away, and if you go 1 or 2 miles an hour over a speed limit, you're being penalised instead of just sort of saying, look, just we notice you've driven a little bit fast over the last couple of weeks, can you just steady yourself down a bit? Which would be rather than just going slap, and if you do it again, your car's going, you've got to go on the you've been a bad boy course, which just continually keeps you down.
Well, you're not to be trusted. People are not to be trusted. That's why we need the surveillance state, to keep everybody in line, because people are just so irresponsible that they...
Yeah, and I'll say it again. So you guys were okay when they gave out everybody driver's licenses. Let's even go before that. You were okay with giving your parents giving you social security numbers and making you just a number, capitalizing your name, making you just a number, a zombie slave, selling to the system, right? So then as you're getting older, every license, insurance, all these things, you got to get a fishing license to go fishing. You have to get a bicycle license if you want to ride your bicycle in the city. You have to get an automotive license to drive a car and another license to drive a motorcycle, because those are going to be two different licenses. You have to get a license for everything. If you want a job in any career nowadays, you have to have a license or a certificate in that field, whether it's plumbing, electrical, lead abatement, you name it, even janitors and nurses and you name it, everyone's got to be licensed and registered for everything. But this, now all of a sudden this, you don't want. Doesn't make any sense. Why didn't you stop and open your fucking mouths when you were little kids? Why didn't I? Why didn't I also open my mouth when I was a kid? Because we were lied to by people just like yourselves that are on here fucking lying to everyone and continuing it. Here I'm offering you the truth, Richard, Tricky Dicky. I'm offering you reality and truth, and you're passing on it to go with more bullshit stories and fucking lies that can't be proven.
They just cannot be trusted.
You're guilty before, and of course the law is supposed to be that you're innocent until proved guilty.
And that's what the surveillance state turns on its head. It turns everybody into guilty people who then have to prove their innocence.
Yes.
And we have to...
But guilty of what? Guilty of what? Guilty of fishing without the license? Right? So then if you get found guilty of fishing without a license, who are you being found guilty? First of all, you have to all agree, 7.8 billion had to agree to hire someone to go out and watch the waters, so that if in the forest, we have names for them, wardens, game wardens, and we have these game wardens hired by the thousands, and they're all out there watching. But just in this one example, I'm not talking about the traffic cops that are looking for those licenses, or the person from OSHA who shows up to make sure that you have all your safety licenses from OSHA, and all, because those are millions more of those licenses. But we're not even talking about them. We're just talking about fishing license. So then you don't have your fishing license. So here's a game warden that's now going to issue you a fine. He's going to take your boat, your equipment, which has nothing to do with what you were doing other than you were sitting in it to fish. So that all comes with the game warden. It's going to go and get impounded. Your cooler, your beer, your juice, your potato chips, all your shit you were eating, your sandwiches, all gets impounded. Even though you may not go to jail that day, get ready, because it's coming. So then the game warden takes all your shit and tells you can either fight it in court or you pay this fine. You can come get your stuff out of impoundment, but right now it's going to be taken as evidence, and we're going to take it in with you. Take it in with us. Your fishing pole, your $300 worth of fucking tackle, all your shit gets taken by these people. What gives them the right? What gives them the right? You gave them the right. You, the 7.8 billion. You, Richard, and your fucking buddy right now talking about stupid shit that's going to happen someday, but really, in reality, it happened 20, 30, 40, hundreds of years ago. Okay, so then you're fishing. Your fishing shit all gets taken away. You get your ticket in your hand, and you say, "Fuck this! I'm gonna go fight it." I always have a fishing license. I didn't even realize it was expired. Or you might say, but I wasn't even fishing. He didn't catch me fishing. I was in the boat. I did have some fishing poles, but I didn't have the fucking hook and line. Well, that's your word against his. You want to fight it? Go to court. Okay, well, if you go to court and you lose it, and you lose the case, then you still have to pay the penalty. You have to waste your time, lose time off of work. You have to go to a court proceeding, so automatically you're a bad person, right? Because you must have done something bad, otherwise you wouldn't be here in court. So nobody really cares whether it's fishing or murder or hurting somebody in some way. They don't give a fuck. They just know that, oh my God, he's going to court. It might even show up in the newspaper. You might get famous. Then then you fucking, let's say you decide not to go back to court. Let's say you're fighting it and the judge says, all right, we're gonna have you back, get your witnesses. You got 2 witnesses saying you didn't have the pole in the water. Get your witnesses and we'll meet you back here at this time. Can't find the witnesses. You say, fuck it, I'm not even going back. Let them keep the fucking fishing boat. Let them keep all the shit. I don't even care. I'm not going back. You don't go back, next thing you know, they put a warrant out for your arrest. Now, anytime you're anywhere doing anything, and someone comes up to you, another person of interest, and says, excuse me, you got your ID on you? You know, somebody called and said you were acting kind of suspicious. Acting suspicious? What are you talking about? I just came out of the fucking store. I got a 6-pack in my hand and I'm walking. I didn't steal nothing. So what are you talking about? Well, you know, the camera up there, they can't tell you this part though. The camera up there, maybe mistakenly, but the camera put a word into the AI and made a computer call to the station, and they say that you got a warrant out for your arrest. You have your ID on you. Well, no, I don't have my ID on me. I just came down to the fucking store. The guy knows me. You can go in and ask him. I just bought this 6-pack without an ID. Now the guy in the store's in trouble for selling you the fucking 6-pack without an ID. And then he's got to argue and say, well, wait a minute. He looks like he's old enough to me. Well, you know, we give him a license for a reason. Do you card everybody that comes in your store? No. Okay, well, now everybody's in fucking trouble. Everybody's a bad guy, right? Everybody's a bad guy except the fucking bad guys.
To account for ourselves. I mean, I will also like to note that automatic number plate recognition was not brought in. There's been no Act of Parliament. There was never an Act of Parliament.
Really?
No. So, to my perhaps ignorant and ill-informed mind, makes it illegitimate to me, if not to say illegal. And yet there it is.
Well, that's very interesting because I've got a chap coming on.
No, but it's not illegal because you've all made it fucking legal because you all sat back and watched it all happen. So when you sign up for your license and you sign on the dotted line saying that we agree to use these roadways under any conditions that you give them to us. We agree to pay the road taxes on the taxes that we pay. So we buy into the bullshit story because that's what road taxes are all about. That's not the same. Road tax is not the same as insurance tax. There's other taxes that are related to owning a car or vehicle. Many of them. Same with your inspection sticker. That's a different tax. That's a tax that they don't want you to know it's a fucking tax, so they just put another name on it. But road tax, that's got the word tax right in it. So road tax is what would be handling that. Not what you're claiming.
I think it.
So, in other words, we all signed the paper. We signed on the dotted line. When you buy something from the store, like I'm talking about the cameras, the home cameras. When you buy the home cameras, your purchase of them, you don't have to sign your name to it. The fact that you're purchasing them, and it says right in the purchase agreement and in the warranty agreement that you are only a holder of this item and the owner is the manufacturer. And then that means that anything that them cameras pick up does not belong to you. Yes, you're on your cell phone at work looking at the fucking mailman and saying, oh, I got a package. Yeah, I understand that you're able to use it for your convenience is what you call it. But if anybody else wants to use it for their convenience, they're welcome to. Not only, I'm not talking about the hackers. The hackers are probably better than the fucking guys that have the right to use it. Because we gave them the right. We are the ones that keep buying into this shit. We keep signing off on it all, man. Fucking bad day today.
Tomorrow, a chap called Chris Coverdale, he has this, well, it is obviously, and there is a act that says you should not be giving money to anybody that does criminal activities. So there's an act that covers that. So it's illegal to give somebody who's going to use that money for illegal purposes. So it would be illegal for you to do that. If it turns out, and he says it has been proved several times, just as you say, that the government are doing illegal things through a number of these processes that have come in that has no act of parliament, etc., then it becomes illegal for you to give them the money to do it, which in his case, and I'll be talking to him about this, about paying your council tax, because you're giving the government effectively money. Well, it's illegal then, he says, to give your council tax. You may want to be a law-abiding citizen, but if it's illegal to give another corporation or anybody your money because they are using it for illegal purposes, you technically could be taken to court. And as a legal abiding person myself,
You wouldn't want to do that.
I wouldn't want to risk that.
Exactly, yeah.
So, you're in a quandary. Should you pay or shouldn't you? And of course, most people will say, well, of course you should pay, because otherwise they'll come and get you. And then you go, but if it's illegal to do it, then maybe I shouldn't. So, and there are a whole load of things that I think Chris is going to talk about, which I'm going to find interesting. But it's interesting what you say there about the fact that this has been brought in. But again, it's even if there were acts being passed, my beef is that as a member of the community, somebody who's voting for the governments, and that they've given you a manifesto, the minute they sort of do things that are not on their manifesto, or big things like 15-minute cities, and they don't ask you first, and they don't say, well, actually, we'll ask the whole country, do you want this? Would you like to be pushed into a
But why would they ask you though, Richard? Why would they ask you? Your parents sold your ass out, man. All of us, we've all been sold out. Grandparents sold our parents out, and parents sold us out. And we have just, in the past now, sold our children out. So if we're going to try to take our children back out of slavery, then we can try to get on the ball and do that and say, okay, well, we've just woken up to it all. We didn't really realize it. I don't know who's going to believe that, because 7.8 billion zombies, I've been sharing this information for 6 years that I've had, and nobody's fucking coming forward and looking or doing anything, or, so, I mean, it just seems like everybody likes it this way. 7.8 billion zombie slaves who sold themselves into slavery thoughtfully and willfully, and they're okay with it. So it's just people like myself and a few other people out there. I'm sure there must be others out there. I cannot be the only one that's able to see this. And then we're going to be hidden. We're obviously hidden. We're not going to be shown on the internet. I'm not like this guy going to get, all of a sudden, what did he say? He got 10,000 new subscribers and all this. That ain't going to happen with my fucking channel. And that ain't going to happen with me. So, because I'm showing you reality. No one wants the reality. They all want to fucking be zombified and stay in their fucking zombie slave fucking caves. So in other words, all this bitching is just distractions. Everything I'm watching on your channel now is just distracting anybody that goes to it from reality. That's what you keep doing over and over again. And I know you've been on my channel for the last 3-4 weeks now, and there's no reason why you can't take a few minutes a day to watch these stupid videos that I do and go see the system for yourself. It's not my moon, it's not my clouds, not my rocks, stones, trees. It's not my fucking earth, it's yours too. You can look all you want.
A camp of some description in which you can't, they might put it in more friendly terms, of course, but if they asked you, is this what you would like, and people have the opportunity to say, no, I'd love it, I'd love everything within 15 minutes, and what, by the way, can I have more parks and nurseries for the kids and more hospitals, and if you're going to do everything within 15 minutes, I would love to have all the incentives to make sure that's there, and if we're going to do that, I'd rather not have giant plant pots put in or surveillance cameras. If you're going to...
Surveillance cameras always going first. And the restrictions going first.
Yeah.
They tell you about this lovely 15-minute city with, beaches and parks, but they never go in.
No.
It's the camera with 30 feet up with spikes on it. that you can't get to.
So I don't understand that. If they want people to be in these 15-minute cities, if it's so desirable, then give us the carrots. Don't give us the stick.
Yeah.
But clearly we can see that they want to get rid of cars, and so therefore part of the thing is, if you go this way, we'll penalise you because you've been a bad boy and infringed what we've decided. But, they decided for us.
And of course, to go one step further, I mean, if you take Sadiq Khan Jules, he ordered all the cameras before the consultation was finished. Or even before it started, perhaps.
Yeah.
So, it was, and talk about a fait accompli.
Yeah.
That's like ANPR. It's already in.
Yeah, we're going to do it.
Oh, geez, that's it.
And we've heard all through the lockdown the stories of, a gentleman came round yesterday and he said, on the M4, I think it was the M4, he said the day after the lockdown he had to make this long journey, about 350 miles, in order to get back home because he was somewhere else. And he said, as I drove, it was very weird, there was nobody on the roads. And then as I came into London, there were thousands of workers of, he said, different nationality, but how do you know that? But anyway, there were thousands of workers putting up what he believed to be either cameras or 4G, 5G. And they were, we were supposed to be under a pandemic with a virus flying around, and yet all these workers are out there busy doing a job because everybody else was hidden inside, told not to go outside.
If one were of a conspiratorial mindset,
which of course we're not in any shape or form,
one might think that that was one of the reasons for the lockdown, so they could get all this infrastructure in place whilst we weren't looking.
Yeah.
But they wouldn't. Yeah, obviously I wouldn't.
I dream of
suggest that's.
No, but in this day and age where there's so many weird things going on, and we sort of see this in the motion pictures that are now being at the cinemas, you kind of think, well, maybe these things do happen in certain societies in which they behave like that. I mean, you only have to look at China.
Yeah.
And you start to think, blimey, do we want to really live under that sort of regime here in good old Blighty?
Yeah, I mean, some people call it predictive programming, don't they? Is that, you introduce something fictional, even though it's horrible, in order to get you to believe that it might actually be something that will happen.
Yes.
So, I mean, this is why most television and films are unwatchable these days. Although, having said that, I haven't had a television for 6 years, so
I was going to say, do you have a television?
And of course, I've got two Odeon Cinemark cards that were given to me for my birthday and Christmas. They're still unused. There's nothing worth watching.
So if anyone would like some free Odeon cards, you could turn that from Odeon to Odious, I suppose.
Yeah. I hadn't thought of that.
No. No disrespect to the company Odeon, in case you wanted to sue us. It was just a play on words for the fun of it. Just purely whimsical. Thank you very much.
#odious.
#odious. And what odious films have you seen out there would be... I mean, people keep telling me in the emails, I saw this film the other day, and then suddenly a train crash happens, which emulates exactly that, as has been recently seen
I believe.
in Ohio, of all places. And yet only a week or two before there was a film with the same storyline.
Yeah, and the same people who were playing the extras were the people doing the clear-up in the real thing. Were they? Yeah, apparently so, yeah.
I mean, it beggars belief. And the thing is, with all this going on, I mean, you and I are in the same... in the same sort of trying to tell people what we see and what we hope is not really happening, yet it seems blatantly obvious it is. And yet other people, we met up earlier and we had a lovely fish and chip breakfast, as it were, not fish and chip, but, nice English breakfast type thing, looking through the window of this cafe. And the world is going about its business as if there's nothing to worry about, and yet both you and I have on our shoulders this grim feeling of the juggernaut that's coming down at 100 miles an hour, and nobody seems to know.
Yeah, well, 127,000 people know of your subscribers.
My subscribers are aware of it,
yeah.
and But they may be some cross, they may also be, some of them may be watching you.
Well, one would hope so.
And hopefully they will go and watch you, and I'll put the link in the description.
Yeah.
So do go and watch Steve, Citizen X.
Yeah, you won't be scared off, that's for sure. Yeah.
Do you get that?
No.
Do you get people saying you're saying a whole load of rubbish?
No, not really. No, not really. I mean, anybody who comes to my channel kind of knows what it's about, I think.
So this is the other thing is, once you get going and you start talking about these things, are we just talking to the converted?
Well, that is a danger. It is a danger, and when you end up speaking with proper normies, you think, oh, this person doesn't know what I know.
Yeah.
And there's a feeling that maybe we're all being led down a path we shouldn't ought to be led down. But as we were saying earlier, I mean the consequences of us being wrong are that people can laugh at us.
Yeah.
The consequences of us being right and nobody listening are really quite terrible.
Exactly.
So
and you're quite familiar with what normal people do, because you do you don't just do the YouTube, you go out onto the street.
Yeah, I do somebody was describing it as outreach the other day, which I thought sounds a bit social workerish, doesn't it?
Yes.
But I do a stall, which is just my table with some leaflets, and I did it quite a few times last summer and the autumn. And I just let people come up and speak to me. And I wasn't very forceful, because I don't like to get into people's faces. But then I got some help with a chap who was like-minded. And, he's a bit of a gobshite, actually, if to not put too fine a point. And so he's quite good for that. And so me and him do it together. And that's a lot more successful. And last time we did it, we get people who come by and then they kind of want to help us out.
Wow.
So,
do you do it as I was just, when you said he was a bit of a gobshite, I got this sort of impression then that it was like a market stall where you go, 15 minutes it is, get your 15 minutes it is here, 25 pence a pound, come on love, would you like a 15? What about digital ID? Got a lovely digital ID for you, there you go love. Oh, how about some CBDCs? They're all weird, 10 a penny at the moment, get them whilst they're hot.
Yeah, I like that idea.
Quite funny to do that, wouldn't
it? Could you write that down?
Yeah, certainly. All right, we'll just rewind the spiel.
Yeah.
But I think that's very magnanimous of you to get out onto the street and face people. Do you ever have any problem with officers of the what can we call them these days? They used to be constables, who were real living men and women of the society, but now they're very much
fascist paramilitaries.
Yeah, the fascist paramilitaries.
That's the word I think you're looking for.
That's exactly the word. You pronounced it so much with more force than I could.
Yeah. Well, actually, I mean, a couple of times back, it's just one of those things, the mundanity of ordinary life interferes, because we had 2 WPCs come up, but just as I was coming out, I had to pack up because my parking ticket was about to run out, so I couldn't speak to them.
Yeah.
But last week, my colleague Mark, he saw a cop across the road and he went over and talked to him for 10 minutes. Actually, he actually went over and talked right to him. So, and he's one of these guys who likes to sort of try and get one over on people. So he likes to get people into knots and so I was just talking to the old ladies and stuff, who are actually quite charming, and they're some of the most awake people, actually.
Yes, well, you see that age will make them aware of what things were like and what things are like now. I think the young are the ones who just don't know.
Yeah. Well, this is the thing, and and the young are the hardest to get to.
Yes.
But it's difficult talking to teenagers and stuff, because you don't want to sort of bother them and they're not interested and they're on their phones. But the reason I did the stall was because we're not going to convert anybody else online. Anybody who's online
they've already found.
They're already on our side. So we've got to find the people who don't know anything about it.
That's an interesting point.
The most interesting and the most rewarding people are the people who you tell them things and they go,
I didn't know that.
I had no idea.
Yeah.
And they're genuinely shocked. They're genuinely gobsmacked. And they say, I can't believe this is happening. And there are all varying degrees of that. You get a lot of people who, it's the nature of the beast. They come up and they want to, because they sort of feel that you're going to agree with them anyway. So you get a lot of those people. You get a lot of people. You hand them a leaflet and go, no, not interested, mate. Not interested, mate. And they just
disappear.
And then every so often you get somebody who's a bit obstreperous, but it's not. It's nothing you can't handle.
No.
And when I first started it was, I had to make myself go. I had to make myself do it. I'd do it from 10 until 2. And I'd sit there, and early on when I was letting people come to me, I might only speak to 8 people in 4 hours, but I'd have good conversations with them. But now we've got somebody else, and, he's of a particular personality type, as I was saying. We end up speaking to a lot more people, and so that emboldens me a bit, and and hand out. And I need to be more organised. You need to have a big banner, but we've got these leaflets. We hand those out, and often you hand it out to someone and go, "Oh right," and they'll take it and they'll wander off.
Yeah.
And then you'll see them 10 minutes later going, walking the other way, reading the leaflet.
Oh right.
See, because they will read the leaflet.
Yes.
The leaflets are great because they will read it, even if they put it in the bin. They'll read it. If you put it through someone's door, they'll read it. And when I went back to my car, I had 4 left. Put them under the windscreen of each car before I got to my car. And they might just go, "Oh, what's this rubbish?" And they might.
How do you lay out your leaflet? What do you say on it? You're all doomed.
I can send you a little.
But what's the headline?
The headline is "What will a cashless society mean?"
Right.
And it gives the pros.
Yeah.
And there's only one of them.
What is that pros?
Convenience.
Oh, convenience. Yes, of course.
Yeah, let's talk about that. 41 minutes figures. I never have any time to talk. Lucky for everyone. Cashless society. Okay. No more lemonade stands. I'm going to talk about the things that they're not talking about, that they're leaving out. No more tag sales. No more, like I said, lemonade stands. No more purchasing things at work. Let's say you go to work and so-and-so is selling Girl Scout cookies and so-and-so is selling calendars for the kids' school, or there's no way to transfer the money anymore. You can't just hand somebody cash at the end of the week, fill up an envelope full of cash. So now it's all going to have to go and transfer your money from your phone, from your device, from your money device to another money device. No one's talking about these things. There are hundreds of them. And when I have time at a later date, I'll try to do that while I'm doing some other videos. I'll shoot the shit about those things when I'm much calmer, when I'm not such an asshole. But we need to talk about these things because no one else is. They're talking about cashless society coming, and the things that they're talking about hurting and being hard. They're not thinking. They're leaving out so much. They're leaving out. I'm not saying that we should try to prevent it from coming because I don't think there's any choice. I think 7.8 billion zombie slaves better wake up when I'm showing them. Otherwise, all these other things are nothing. This isn't shit compared to the bullshit stories you're believing on your regular daily lives. And not because you were tricked into believing them, because you want to be tricked into believing them. They make you feel comfortable. They make you feel safe that you're on I don't know why. It doesn't make any fucking sense, but for some reason, the story I'm telling you is very safe, secure, sound, steady, true creator, false creator / creator that we can see for ourselves with our own eyes. No more bullshit stories. Don't have to get the fucking information from the television. All that, and no, everyone's going to pass on that, and we're going to go for the fucking bullshit stories and the lies because that's what they taught us in school. It makes absolutely no fucking sense. So they put you on a ball, which makes absolutely no fucking sense because this ball is supposedly spinning at 1,100 miles an hour. So this 25,000 mile circumference is now spinning at 1,100 miles an hour. Well, seeing the outside surface, the Earth's the surface we can see with our eyes, they tell you that for some reason, mysteriously, because people have asked, why does the water not just fly off into the air? Well, you have gravity. So you have, well, even with gravity, we can take, I have gravity all around me, but if I take something wet and go spinning it, the water flies off the fuck, and there's gravity all around whatever it is I'm spinning. Whatever, a wet shirt, just take a wet shirt out, put it into a ball, and throw it, and you see the water comes off of it, right? Oh, yes, yes, yes. That's called centripetal force. I believe that's called centripetal force. Or is that centrifugal force? So centrifugal force is what makes it splash off, and centripetal force is the magical force that is when something's so large and spinning so fast, the water is then able to stay because the centripetal force outweighs the centrifugal force. This is what they tell you. This is what they tell us in fucking school, people. Come on. Fucking ridiculous shit. So then they say, yeah, they equal out each other. Well, okay, well, how come we can't do that with an experiment then, with a large fucking ball, or show us how this supposedly works? Because it's very non-believable. You'd have to be a fucking genius to believe the nonsense, a blind genius. Just believe whatever the hell we tell you in order to believe this nonsense. Oh, well, we can't really show you except for one example. We got one example that we can show you. It's the earth that we live on. You happen to live on a big 25,000 mile circumference fucking ball that magically has something that holds the water down so it doesn't fucking fly off, called centrifugal force, which counteracts centripetal force, and centripetal force counteracts centrifugal force, and therefore the water stays right in the oceans and in the water. What the fuck, man? Fucking lying motherfuckers.
And then there's all the cons that I can think of.
Yeah.
Like it can be programmable. It'll have an expiry date. It'll be tracked with every purchase you make. We know all this stuff. We all know this stuff.
Did you say will be tracked?
Will be, yeah.
Oh, crikey, I didn't know that.
Yeah.
And did you say it was programmable?
Yeah, programmable.
I didn't realise that.
Yeah, and
I've got a whole load of them here.
And you might not be able to buy petrol or meat or go on holiday or.
Blimey.
Yeah, so all
Funny
these
I told my viewers the right thing.
Yeah.
Damn. I've been telling them how marvellous it is.